Good start. So, hi everyone. Long day here in the UK. I'm going to talk about change management and partnerships. I just want to put a warning sign. This is an honest, unrestricted view, somewhat provocative, might be a bit uncomfortable. But the question I'm going to pose is, are you a good partner? Just give you a flavour about who we are. So as a company, I co-founded the company 22 years ago, and we're just razor sharp in terms of helping clients improve project and change performance. So that's all we do. That's all we focus on. So we do a number of things. So we were quite instrumental in creating the first Olympic and Paralympic digital games back in 2012. We run assurance workshops where we actually go in and review projects to understand what needs to happen to make them healthier. So as an example, recently reviewed 8 ERP programs in the sector and identified that they're all suffering from the same issues. Capability development, massive focus for us, which is about building internal self-sufficiency in capacity. We reviewed 23 international NGOs change capacity recently. We do the consultancy, big topic at the moment in a lot of places around how do we actually deliver things faster, better, cheaper. And we've delivered digital transformation in various forms, really. So been there, done it, used to have hair type stuff. Like I said, we've been about 22 years, multi-award winning. Our focus is about helping clients be faster, better, more cost effective. And that's my sole focus, really. All of our work is by recommendation. We've worked across 21 sectors. And recently I decided that I was going to solely focus personally on the NGO sector and actually help the NGO sector sort of improve its change performance. In terms of what we are seeing in the sector, desire to be faster, better, cheaper, more certainty about being able to deliver things on time for the right cost. There's a big challenge around prioritization. Are we doing too much? Business capacity change, capability, all of these things you'll probably recognize in various forms. And what we've identified is that there's 3 building blocks that need to be in place, whether you're in the commercial world or the non-profit sector, in order to sort of have excellent partnerships. And I'm just going to give you a flavour of some of these in the next 10, 12 minutes. One is, do we have aligned principles? Do we have the right building blocks in place that we all understand these are the things we need to have in place? And do we have a common language of change? When I'm talking about common language of change, is are we talking about the same thing? And are we talking the same thing in plain language? Right, so it's not sort of project lingo, it's not IT lingo. We all understand what we're talking about. So in terms of aligned principles, it's a bit like establishing a personal relationship, I suppose. Are we aligned in terms of what we're trying to achieve? Do we understand what good looks like? Do we have a shared view of success? Do we work together? Do we have good rows? So rows are definitely going to happen in terms of partnership, but do we have good ones? Do we have open and honest dialogue? Do we have collective aspiration aligned with realism? Is actually what you're trying to achieve possible within that budget? Do you have the right capacity internally to actually deliver that ambition? And do we have regular checkpoints in terms of how well we're doing in terms of the relationship? And also, do we celebrate success? We're so busy at the moment that we don't celebrate success. And so what we're seeing is this tension between, do I have a competing view in terms of principles? Are we partly aligned? Are we fully aligned? So just take these in turn about what we're seeing, and we've done quite a bit of work in the sector. Most partnerships are actually in this sort of space between partly aligned and fully aligned. However, one thing that fascinates us when we look at project data, and we've got lots of project data in the sector, understanding what good looks like seems to be an area for improvement. So we have these sort of statements around, you know, and I'm exaggerating here to make a point. You know, we don't know what good looks like, but it's definitely this solution. Okay, obviously this wouldn't happen in your company, but in other organisations that happens. The other one that also stands out is what I call mutual obligations. So sometimes when we look at proposals, you know, tech providers will say, you know, we can deliver this, this and this for you based on these set of assumptions. Now, are those assumptions realistic? So, and again, exaggerating, you know, some examples I've seen is, you know, this project is definitely doable in this time scale as long as I can have all the resources I need in the time that I need them. And we know based on practice that's not going to happen. But we need to sort of look at, can we deliver against those mutual obligations? Solving solving problems in a good way, open and honest dialogue can be mixed sometimes. You know, this collective aspiration thing is quite important for me. You know, to what extent is the ambition that we're trying to sort of deliver actually balanced with the capacity to deliver it? And we believe that in the sort of NGO sector itself, there's a big challenge around business capacity, because I need the same people to run programs as well as actually do transformation, and there's a tension. And do we celebrate success? All I'm trying to do here is to go, look, there are 7 basic principles that we know need to be in place in terms of ways of working, and there's potentially some common areas that actually both, you know, the NGOs, tech partners, and even the donors could improve on to actually improve this area. The next one is about, do we have the same understanding of what are the building blocks we need to have in place to deliver our ambition? And in this instance, I'm just using digital transformation. So we know there are 10 key factors that need to be in place to actually have digital success. And there's lots of examples in the digital graveyard of failed projects. And I think it was Bain or BCG recently came out with only 30% of digital transformations succeed. Well, these are the 10 factors based on our experience. You know, we've delivered lots of digital stuff that actually needs to be in place. And this is our view of areas for improvement. And I want to just highlight on some of these. You know, when we look at NGOs, and I'll just highlight a couple here. NGOs need to realise that digital transformation is not the accountability of the CIO. Most CIOs cannot deliver a digital transformation program. It needs to be owned by the business. And it's that collaboration between the business and the CIO is actually what actually aids digital transformation. The other bit that we've highlighted here in the middle is, you know, there's a need to be a realism around when you start doing digital transformation, the strain on business capacity and your change capability is quite important. And then I've got one down here which can be a bit contentious. Sometimes NGOs are too dependent on consultants. You know, consultants should be there to actually help you deliver your baby. It's your baby. It's not their baby. It's your baby. And so one of the watch out for is sometimes you have too many cooks. In terms of the tech providers, again, in our opinion, you know, there are some projects that we believe tech providers should not initiate for their clients or for NGOs, because they do not have the capability or capacity in place to actually deliver the project. So it's much better, in our view, to actually stop the project and not even start it. So again, it's this sort of mutual accountability. And when we look at donors, again, this sort of view around, you know, when I put grant money in, Do we have the capacity? Is it led by the business? Do I have the right visibility? Can I measure how well the project is being delivered against the set outcomes? All I'm trying to do here is just give you a flavour of, there are 10 building blocks we know need to be in place for digital success. There's areas for improvement, and actually NGOs, tech providers and donors have a part to play in actually improving these building blocks, really. The third aspect is, do we have a common language of change? Now, one of the things the commercial sector is increasingly doing that I'm not seeing as much in the non-profit sector is actually investing in developing internal change capability. A few months ago, through the NetHope membership, we did a piece of work that looked at 23 NGOs and what was their change capacity. And their change capacity can be represented by this dotted line. The detail doesn't matter here. If anybody's interested, happy to talk to you later. If you want to post anything in the chat, we'll respond to everything that is posted. But what was interesting is when you started to look at the ambition of the NGOs, the change capacity had to be a bit more like the purple line. Now, this for us is the change capability gap in the sector, as an illustration based on 23 NGOs. Now, the message here is, unless you actually address this capability gap, you won't deliver your strategic change ambition. Or the alternative is change your strategic change ambition. It could be one or the other. Or the third one is expect change to fail. And so again, what we've tried to do as an illustration is gone, what are some of the areas NGOs could actually consider to strengthen? So I've just highlighted a couple here. One of them is around strategic prioritization. Are you doing too much change? Because I've still got lots of business as usual activity, program work to do, but actually, are we doing too much change? And actually, the issue here is not how much money you've got. The issue will tend to be, do I have the business capacity to do everything that I want to do? The second point I'd like to highlight here is, are we investing in our leaders for tomorrow? Can we actually lead change? Are we skilling up people to actually lead change? Because leading a program is sometimes different to leading a transformation program. And again, are we investing in that capability? In terms of the donors, again, the question is, if I'm putting grants out there, where does it sit? What are the priorities? What are the needs of the strategy? Is it aligned with the needs of the NGO? And again, it's looking at the doability factor. And this was quite a surprising insight from this piece of work. When we asked the 23 NGOs, basically what they were saying was third-party performance could be improved both on simple projects and more complex projects. Now, that improvement isn't necessarily because the third party is poor, potentially it's because actually they've been set up to fail. And again, it's this partnership angle about, are we generating a win-win? So I just want to give some real examples just very briefly. So when we did the first digital broadcast, so this is for the BBC, for the Olympic and Paralympic Games, this was the colour scheme. There's broadly some aligned principles, there was no understanding of the factors, and there was no common language that all the different parties could understand what we were trying to achieve. What we had to do was actually increase the common language, put the building blocks in place, and the 2012 Olympic Games was a record-breaking digital success. It broke all records. It was a massive achievement, really. This one down here is quite interesting. Over a single 24-hour period, the total traffic into the BBC exceeded the entire BBC coverage of FIFA World Cup 2010. It was just a massive achievement. When we look at ERP programs in the sector, again, the colour scheme looks like this. And when you start looking at the data, so this is just an extract. So these are 5 ERP programs in the sector. What you see is there's some common themes around why ERP projects or programs are struggling in the sector. Top liner, basically, they've been run too much like technology projects, whereas in fact, they're actually business change projects. They need to be run as business change projects. The business need to be engaged. We need to have the right governance, and we need to understand non-hardware stuff like people. So we need to understand the impact on people. But again, the fix here is relatively straightforward. And what you can see here is, not all the factors will necessarily be in place, but actually, as long as you've got this common language about how are we going to do this, you can increase the success rate of ERP programs or CRM programs quite easily, actually. So, because this is just a very quick whistle stop through the partnership, based on 22 years of being there, done it, seeing what works, what doesn't work. There are 3 practical things that you can do to make sure that you have partnership excellence. But also, there are 3 things that you need to self-reflect on in terms of, are you a good partner? So one of them is, are our principles aligned with our partner? Do we have the same vision? Or, is my vision contrary to your commercial stuff about you want to just sell me stuff? So are we actually aligned around the principles? Do we have a common understanding of where and how we need to strengthen the building blocks for success? So against those 10 factors for digital success, which ones are we struggling with, and what do we need to do collectively to improve those building blocks? And then the third one is, how do we establish a common language of change? And how do we build internal change capacity inside an NGO at pace to allow the NGOs to be self-sufficient in change? Because without this, you'll start having frustrations. Donors won't be able to see their investments materialize into impact. You'll have tech providers that have got fantastic technology, but actually can't get it implemented into the NGO sector. And so what you've got is this tension. And so all we're flagging here is 3 practical things you could look at, dead simple, and you can work out where you need to strengthen your partnership. Lastly, I just wanted to provide some food for thought around, are all key parties doing all they can to make a difference? And so, questions in terms of the NGO sector, are we running change initiatives, and do we have the right business leadership? Are we clear what does good look like? Do we have the right capacity capability in place? Do not default to consultants. They're there to help you for definite, but it is your baby. And when we start looking at some of your ambitions, you have your own mutual obligations that you've got to deliver, because tech providers on their own or other consultants on their own cannot deliver what you need to deliver. So if you look at ERP projects are roughly 30 to 40% technology and 60 to 70% business change. Tech providers, again, food for thought. Should we not start some projects because they're not set up for success? Do we need to make sure there's the right business and tech leadership in place? Do we need to make sure that what we deliver it? Going back to the NGO perception of third parties not delivering. And to what extent are you encouraging or funding capacity building inside the NGO sector. And when I look at donors, questions such as, are grants linked to appropriate capacity? Right, so do the NGOs have the appropriate capacity to deliver against the projects you're giving money to? Are you funding change capacity, right, as well as the programs themselves? Because by funding change capacity building in the NGOs, they can actually deliver things faster, better, cheaper. On average, we think there's a 30% efficiency gain to be had. That's a lot of money. To what extent do donors demand data on performance? To what extent are we encouraging collaboration between NGOs? And this fifth one is one of my personal views. If an NGO has actually had some grants and it's demonstrating success, then motivate them by giving them more money and more money. And I don't leave us out of this equation. As an organisation, we've got the common language of change. We've proven it in a number of NGOs. We were quite instrumental in the frontline humanitarian logistics project. We need to look at, how do we connect the NGOs, tech providers and donors together? How do we sort of extend the digital and data capacity building we have for maximum impact? And how do we sort of start using data to prevent what is predictable? So we know the 5 key areas where you can now predict ERP failure on projects, even before early days. So all I'm trying to do in this whole section is be a bit provocative, but actually also play back realism around getting effective partnerships is hard. And when you're involved with change management, delivering big transformation programs, we've got to have principles, building blocks and common language in alignment. For that to happen, NGOs, tech providers, donors, ourselves as an instance, we've got to work together to actually create the right picture. So that's it from me. I thank you for your time. I sincerely apologise if I've offended anyone, but I seriously care about the sector. If you've got any questions, comments, if you want to disagree with me, any questions, either email me direct or post it on the chat, and we will come back to every single query that we have. So Sonia, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure presenting to this forum, and hopefully it's given your attendees some food for thought.
Thank you very much, John.